The Turner family's house was filled with laughter and the smell of roasted turkey. It was Thanksgiving, the one day everyone came together, talking over each other, sharing jokes, and passing dishes across the long dining table. Rachel smiled as she looked around. For a moment, everything felt peaceful. Maybe, after all the chaos of her divorce, life was slowly finding balance again. Her 6-year-old daughter, Emily, sat beside her, swinging her little legs under the table. Rachel reached over and fixed a loose strand of hair behind Emily's ear. "Eat your mashed potatoes, sweetheart," she said gently. Emily nodded but didn't touch her food. She squirmed in her seat, frowning. "Sit still, honey," Rachel whispered, trying not to draw attention. But Emily's small voice broke through the noise of the room. "Mom, it hurts to sit." The laughter stopped. Forks froze in midair. For a few seconds, the only sound was the ticking of the old wall clock. Rachel blinked, unsure if she heard her right. "What baby?" she asked softly, her smile fading. Emily looked down at her lap, then nervously pointed under the table, right toward where Uncle Ben was sitting. Ben, her sister's husband, froze. He quickly looked away, pretending to sip his drink. Rachel's heart began to race. "Emily," she whispered, kneeling beside her daughter. "What do you mean it hurts?" Emily didn't answer. Her little chin trembled, eyes filling with tears. Rachel's hands began to shake. Around her, no one moved. Her parents exchanged confused looks. Her sister, Monica, laughed awkwardly and said, "She's just tired. Kids say strange things." But Rachel wasn't listening anymore. Her whole body went cold. She could feel her pulse pounding in her ears as she wrapped her arms tightly around her daughter. Emily leaned into her mother's chest, sobbing quietly. Rachel looked up at Ben, whose smile was gone now. His face was blank, too calm. Tears burned behind Rachel's eyes as a wave of dread filled her chest. Something was terribly wrong. The warmth of the dinner was gone. The laughter, the clinking of glasses, the smell of food, all of it faded into silence. Rachel's trembling hands held Emily closer, her mind spinning with confusion and fear. What did her little girl mean? What had just happened? As she rocked her daughter gently, one thought kept echoing in her head. "Please, God, don't let this be what I think it is." Rachel had never imagined she would be back living in her childhood bedroom at 32. The pale blue wall still had old stickers from when she was a teenager. After her divorce, it was the only place she could go. Her parents had welcomed her home with open arms, but every night when the house grew quiet, she could hear her own shame whispering in her head. "You failed." Her ex-husband, Ethan, had left her a year ago after falling in love with another woman. One day he was promising to fix things, and the next he was gone, with half of their savings. The divorce papers came quickly after that. Rachel didn't fight much. She was too tired. All she wanted was to protect their little girl, Emily. Life had changed so suddenly. Rachel now worked part-time at a local bakery, earning just enough to help with groceries and Emily's school supplies. Her parents supported her, but she hated depending on them. Her mother, Lydia, often said things like, "At least Ethan was honest enough to leave. Men make mistakes. You must learn to move on." Rachel knew her mother meant well, but those words stung. Lydia had been raised to believe that keeping the family together was more important than facing hard truths. Then there was Ben, her sister Monica's husband. Everyone in the family adored him. He was the kind of man who never forgot birthdays, who offered to help fix your car, who always smiled and cracked jokes at dinner. Whenever Rachel needed a ride or a babysitter, Ben was there. He was Uncle Ben, the fun one, the trusted one. At first, Rachel was grateful. Ben seemed to care about Emily like a doting uncle. He'd bring her small gifts, pick her up from dance class, and sometimes babysit when Rachel had a late shift. Emily used to laugh whenever he came around. She'd run into his arms and tell him stories about school. But lately things had changed. Emily had become quiet and distant. She didn't talk much, didn't want to play, and sometimes woke up screaming from nightmares. Rachel thought maybe it was because of the divorce. Children often carried pain they couldn't explain. She tried everything: gentle talks, bedtime hugs, reassuring smiles. But Emily only seemed to retreat further. Thanksgiving was supposed to be a fresh start. Rachel had told herself that one happy family dinner might help Emily feel safe again. She'd even convinced herself that it would help her too. For a few days, she had managed to believe that. The house was decorated with autumn colors, Lydia was busy cooking, and Monica was laughing in the kitchen with Ben. Still, something inside Rachel felt uneasy. She couldn't explain why, but whenever Ben walked into the room, Emily seemed to shrink back a little. Once, when Rachel mentioned that Ben would be babysitting again, Emily had shaken her head so fast that her hair flew. "I don't want to stay with Uncle Ben," she had said softly. Rachel had been surprised, maybe even a little annoyed. She told herself her daughter was just being fussy. Now, remembering that moment made Rachel's stomach twist. How could she have missed the signs? Lydia, of course, noticed none of it. To her, Ben was perfect, the man who always helped fix the sink or carry groceries. "You're lucky to have such a kind brother-in-law," Lydia often said. Some men wouldn't even bother helping. Whenever Rachel tried to bring up her uneasy feelings, Lydia would wave a hand and say, "Don't overthink everything, Rachel. Life is already hard enough." Rachel wanted to believe her mother. She wanted to believe that she was just tired, that her instincts were wrong. But deep down, she couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right, that Emily's silence, her tears, her sudden fear weren't just from the divorce. As she tucked Emily into bed the night before Thanksgiving, Rachel brushed her daughter's hair back and whispered, "Tomorrow's going to be a good day, baby. Family, food, and love just like old times." Emily looked up at her with tired eyes and nodded, forcing a small smile. "Okay, Mom." Rachel kissed her forehead, turned off the light, and lay awake for a long time staring at the ceiling, her heart full of hope and a quiet, unexplainable fear. After the awkward silence at the Thanksgiving table, Rachel made an excuse to take Emily upstairs. Her hands were shaking as she led her daughter into the small guest room and shut the door. The sound of laughter downstairs had started again, but it felt far away, unreal. Rachel knelt in front of Emily and spoke softly. "Sweetheart, what did you mean when you said it hurts to sit?" Emily's eyes filled with tears. She shook her head, her little hands twisting the edge of her dress. "I don't want to say, Mommy. Please don't be mad." Rachel's heart squeezed painfully. "I'm not mad, baby. I just need to understand so I can help you." Emily took a deep breath, her voice trembling. "Uncle Ben, he touched me. Down there." She pointed weakly, then burst into tears. Rachel froze. For a second she couldn't breathe. The world seemed to spin around her, her heartbeat loud in her ears. "What?" she whispered, her voice cracking. Emily clung to her mother's arm, crying harder. "He said not to tell. He said it's our secret." Rachel's eyes filled with tears. She pulled Emily into her arms, holding her tightly as her own body shook. Every word out of her daughter's mouth felt like a knife in her chest. Not Ben. Not him. She wanted to scream, to deny it, but she couldn't. The fear in Emily's eyes was real. After a few moments, Rachel wiped her tears and whispered, "You did the right thing, baby. Mommy believes you." She kissed Emily's head and tucked her under a blanket, then stood up slowly. Her legs felt weak, but she forced herself downstairs. In the living room, Lydia was clearing dishes, humming softly. "Mom," Rachel said, her voice trembling, "I need to talk to you. Now." Lydia turned, frowning at her daughter's pale face. "What's wrong?" "It's Ben," Rachel whispered. "Emily said he hurt her." The air went cold. Lydia's eyes widened, then hardened. "Rachel, don't say such things. Ben would never do something like that." "Mom, I'm serious. She told me." "Stop." Lydia snapped. "Do you realize what you're saying? That's your sister's husband. You can't throw around accusations like that. You'll destroy this family." Before Rachel could answer, Monica walked in holding a tray. "Destroy the family? What's going on?" Rachel turned to her. "Emily said Ben touched her. I can't stay quiet." The tray crashed to the floor. Monica's face went red. "You're lying. You've always been jealous because Ben helps me. How dare you say something so disgusting about him?" Rachel tried to speak, but Monica shouted louder. "You're making this up for attention. You've always wanted to be the victim." "Monica, stop." Rachel cried, her voice breaking. "Why would I lie about something like this?" But the yelling grew louder. Lydia sided with Monica, tears of anger in her eyes. "Rachel, you need to think before you speak. We don't bring shame into this family." From upstairs, a soft sob broke through the noise. Emily was standing at the top of the stairs, crying. "Mommy, I'm sorry," she shouted. That was it. Rachel's heart broke completely. She ran to her daughter, scooped her into her arms, and headed for the door. "We're leaving," she said firmly. Lydia tried to stop her, but Rachel didn't look back. The rain had started outside, cold and heavy. She put Emily in the car and drove away, tears blurring her vision. They ended up in a small roadside motel. Rachel tucked Emily into bed and sat beside her, her mind racing. This wasn't just a family problem anymore. This was something darker, something criminal. As she watched her daughter fall asleep, Rachel whispered to herself, "I'm not letting him hurt her again. Ever." The next morning, Rachel did what her heart told her was right. She went to the police station and reported what Emily had said. Her hands were shaking the whole time, but she told the truth. The officers were calm and kind, and one of them connected her with Child Protective Services. Later that day, a detective named Sarah came to the motel to speak with Emily. She had a gentle voice and a soft smile. She sat on the floor beside Emily, showing her a small toy to make her feel safe. "You're very brave," she said. "You can tell me anything, okay?" Emily nodded shyly, glancing at her mother for comfort. The interview was quiet and careful, but by the end, Rachel's heart was breaking again. Hearing her daughter repeat those words, what Uncle Ben had done, made her want to scream. After the report, Rachel and Emily were moved to a small safe house for a few days. Rachel thought her family would finally support her now that the truth was out, but she was wrong. The first phone call came from Monica. Her voice was cold and sharp. "How could you do this to us?" she shouted. "You're ruining my life, Rachel. Ben is innocent. You've poisoned everyone's mind with your lies." "Monica, please," Rachel tried to explain, but Monica hung up before she could finish. Then Lydia called. "Rachel, you need to stop this," her mother said sternly. "Do you know what people are saying about our family? You're tearing us apart. Ben has a reputation. So does your sister. Think about Emily's future before you make it worse." Tears filled Rachel's eyes. "Mom, I'm thinking about her future. That's exactly why I'm doing this." But Lydia wouldn't listen. "You're being dramatic. You always make trouble out of nothing." After that, no one from her family spoke to her again. At church, people whispered. At the bakery, customers stopped coming when they saw her face. One day, her boss called her into the office. "Rachel, I'm sorry," he said gently. "It's not good for business right now. Maybe you should take some time off." She knew what that meant. She was fired. The following weeks were the hardest of her life. Bills piled up, her phone was full of hateful messages, and Emily was having more nightmares. Rachel found a lawyer through a local women's shelter. His name was David, and he looked tired but kind. He listened carefully to her story, then sighed. "Rachel, I believe you," he said. "But it's going to be difficult. There's no physical evidence yet. It may come down to your daughter's word against his." Rachel clenched her fists. "So you're saying he could get away with it?" "I'm saying we have to be strong and patient," David replied. "The truth takes time." Rachel left his office feeling empty. She wanted justice, but the system felt too slow, too cold. Emily started therapy soon after. Her therapist, Mrs. Green, had a soft, warm voice that made Rachel cry the first time she heard it. She helped Emily draw her feelings instead of talking, using colors and shapes to express what words couldn't. Slowly, the little girl began to sleep better. But Rachel didn't. Every night she lay awake, staring at the ceiling, her mind filled with guilt and anger. Sometimes she wondered if she'd made everything worse, if standing up had destroyed what little peace they had left. One night, unable to sleep, Rachel walked into Emily's room. Her daughter was curled up, sleeping peacefully for the first time in days, her small hand resting on a stuffed bunny. Rachel sat on the edge of the bed and brushed a strand of hair from her face. "I'm sorry, baby," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I know it's been so hard, but I promise, I'll never let anyone hurt you again." Tears rolled down her cheeks, but she didn't wipe them away. For the first time, she understood what real strength meant. It wasn't about being fearless. It was about standing for the truth, even when everyone turned against you. In that quiet, lonely moment, Rachel held her daughter's hand and found a small spark of peace. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but she knew one thing for sure. She would never stop fighting for Emily. The courtroom was cold and quiet when Rachel walked in, holding Emily's small hand. Her heart beat so loudly she could hear it in her ears. This was the day she had been waiting for, and fearing. The day the truth would finally be spoken out loud. Ben sat across the room in a dark suit, calm and confident, like he didn't have a care in the world. He even smiled when people looked at him. But these stories, they're not true. He spoke like an actor in a movie, kind, gentle, even sad. People in the courtroom nodded, some looking at Rachel like she might really be making it up. Her stomach twisted. She felt sick. Then it was Monica's turn. She looked straight at Rachel as she spoke. "My sister has always wanted attention," she said coldly. "She lies to make herself look like a victim. My husband is innocent. This is her way of punishing us for having a happy marriage." Rachel's eyes filled with tears. She wanted to shout, "How can you say that?" But her lawyer squeezed her hand, stopping her. When Monica finished, the courtroom fell silent. It felt like the world was slipping away. Rachel looked at Emily sitting beside her, holding her stuffed bunny tightly. Her daughter's face was pale, her eyes tired. Rachel wanted to protect her from everything, from the lies, the looks, the pain. But she didn't know if she could anymore. Then, just as the judge was about to close the hearing for the day, a voice came from the back of the room. "Your Honor, please. I need to speak." Everyone turned. A young woman stood nervously by the door. It was Kayla, the college student who used to babysit Emily. Rachel's eyes widened in surprise. The judge nodded. "State your name and connection to the case." "My name is Kayla Adams," she said, her voice shaking. "I used to babysit Emily Turner." Ben's lawyer immediately stood. "Your Honor, this witness wasn't listed." "Sit down," the judge said firmly. "Let her speak." Kayla took a deep breath and continued, her hands trembling. "I didn't want to come forward before. I was scared, but I can't stay silent anymore." She looked directly at Ben. "One night, I came over early to babysit. Emily was in the living room, and Ben was sitting too close to her. He jumped up when he saw me. Emily looked scared. I didn't understand it then, but now I do." The courtroom went silent. You could hear the sound of someone gasping. Ben's face went pale. His fake smile vanished. He shifted uncomfortably in his chair, eyes darting around. His lawyer whispered something urgently to him, but Ben didn't answer. Monica turned to look at her husband, confusion and fear mixing in her eyes. "Ben, is this true?" she whispered, but he didn't meet her gaze. The judge cleared his throat. "We'll take a short recess," he said, his voice steady but heavy. Rachel sat frozen, tears streaming down her face. She couldn't move, couldn't speak. David touched her shoulder gently. "It's happening," he whispered. "The truth is finally coming out." Rachel turned to Emily, who was looking up at her mother with wide eyes. Rachel pulled her close, holding her tightly as she cried softly. "You're safe now, baby," she whispered. "It's almost over." Across the room, Ben sat silently, his mask of confidence finally broken. For the first time, Rachel saw fear in his eyes. As the court officers led him out for questioning, Rachel felt a strange calm spread through her chest. For so long she had doubted herself, but now she knew she had done the right thing. Holding Emily's hand, she closed her eyes and whispered, "Thank you, God. Thank you for giving us strength." A few weeks after the hearing, the truth finally came out. More evidence was found, messages, hidden photos, and a statement from another witness. Ben was arrested. When Rachel heard the news, she sat in silence for a long moment, her hands shaking. It felt like a heavy weight had been lifted off her chest. For the first time in months, she could breathe. A few days later, Monica came to see her. Rachel almost didn't open the door, but she saw her sister standing there with swollen eyes and trembling hands. Monica broke down crying the moment she saw Rachel. "I'm so sorry," she said through her tears. "I didn't believe you. I didn't believe Emily. I was so blind." Rachel's heart ached. She had dreamed of this moment but didn't expect it to hurt this much. She hugged her sister gently. "You wanted to believe your husband," she whispered. "I understand. But we can't change the past. We just have to move forward." Monica nodded, crying into Rachel's shoulder. "Thank you," she whispered. "You saved Emily, and maybe others too." Later that week, Lydia came over too. She looked older, her shoulders heavy with guilt. She sat quietly on Rachel's couch, twisting her hands. "I was wrong," she said softly. "I thought I was protecting the family, but I only protected a lie. I'm sorry, Rachel." Rachel didn't know what to say at first. Her mother had always been strong, stubborn, unbending. Seeing her like this was new. "We all make mistakes, Mom," she finally said. "What matters is that we learn from them." Tears filled Lydia's eyes. "You're stronger than I ever was," she said, reaching out to hold Rachel's hand. In the months that followed, Rachel focused on rebuilding her life. With help from a victim support center, she found a better job as an assistant at a law office, a job that paid well and gave her purpose. She saved money, rented a small apartment in a new town, and enrolled Emily in a new school where no one knew their story. At first, everything felt strange and quiet, but slowly, peace began to grow around them. Emily started smiling again. Her therapy sessions helped her heal, and she even made a new friend. Every morning before school, she hugged Rachel tightly and said, "I love you, Mommy." Each time, those words melted away a little more of Rachel's pain. One evening, as Rachel watched Emily doing her homework at the kitchen table, she realized something beautiful. They had survived. They had walked through darkness and still found light. She made them hot cocoa, and they sat together by the window, watching the sunset. Emily leaned her head on her mother's shoulder and said softly, "Mom, I'm not scared anymore." Rachel smiled, wrapping her arm around her daughter. "That's because you're brave, just like I always knew you were." For the first time in a long while, Rachel felt peace, real peace. The world had tried to silence her, but she had found her voice. And now she knew. Love, courage, and truth would always be stronger than fear. A year had passed since that painful Thanksgiving. Now Rachel and Emily sat together in their small apartment, preparing for a quiet dinner. There was no big crowd, no loud voices, just the soft glow of the kitchen light and the gentle clinking of plates as they set the table. Emily smiled shyly as she placed the last fork beside the plate. She looked up at her mother and said softly, "Mom, can I say what I'm thankful for?" Rachel's heart warmed. "Of course, baby," she replied, smiling back. Emily took a deep breath and whispered, "For you. Because you believed me." Rachel felt tears fill her eyes, but this time, they were not tears of pain or fear. They were tears of relief, love, and hope. She pulled Emily into a gentle hug and held her close. After everything they had been through, they were finally safe. The camera slowly pulled back, fading out on the warm light of their little home. A place full of healing, strength, and quiet courage. Rachel knew they still had a long road ahead, but for now, they were together. And that was enough. Hey friends, thanks a lot for watching all the way through. Don't forget to like, comment your thoughts, and hit that subscribe button. See you next time.